Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle Me in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. Well, I gotta say, it just keeps on getting better and better. But maybe that's not the right way to say it. How about it keeps on getting worse and worse? Or more bizarre and more bizarre? So when I said better, I mean interesting, bizarre. Like the Twilight Zone. Making these videos on Freemasonry and Satanism, digging into subjects that I never would have thought about, I never would have asked questions about, I would have never had any reason to know about it. Just like most people. But I've been making some videos lately that are kind of more interesting than the previous ones I was making, with the Encyclopedia Judaica, studying about the Kabbalah, Zionism, what the Jewish people in their encyclopedia think about Jesus, and Edgar Cayce, trances, readings, Theophist Society, Helenita Blavatsky, Albert Pike, Morals and Dogma, the Freemasons. And then we are all aware of the desire of the elites for a new age, a new world order. Even the Pope has come out and said it, called for it. Got a little thing here on my computer that I saved a long time ago. You know how you can keep your favorites? So anyways, this particular article says, the Vatican calls for world government. This was back in October 25th, 2011. So we're all aware that apparently nothing has stopped with the movement of the New Age and New World Order. I saw a commercial for a movie or a TV program. I don't know what it was, but it was bizarre. And apparently all these people were in this gigantic building, like a skyscraper or a complex, like the Twin Towers in 9/11. And it was all locked down. And on the TV monitors everywhere in the speaker system came this image and this voice that said, the people who kill the most people will live. So it was telling everybody only a few people in that whole complex would live, and the ones who would live were the ones who would kill everybody else. It was very bizarre. This stuff catches you off guard. I don't know if you saw the commercial on TV or internet or whatever. But it's just beyond belief. Then I thought about it and I said, wait a minute. And I remembered the Hunger Games movie. Wasn't that the same thing? Where all these different communities had to get 2 people from each community and all had to go in this big arena, a forested area, whatever, an enclosed area. And the surviving 2 people would be the winners. They had to kill each other. So it does boggle the mind. And I think it is a great indication of what this New Age and New World Order is all about. It is satanic. And this series is Freemasonry and Satanism. And as I say in my videos, I spend a lot of time watching other people's videos. I get my ideas. I buy books to try to verify what they're saying. I've got hundreds of books. Got 5 of them in the mail yesterday. So anyways, the book review here is 116, series number 116 in Freemasonry and Satanism book review. The Book of Enoch. I was watching some other lecturers and speakers talk about it. I didn't know about it, so I thought I ought to look into it. What is it all about? What does it have to do with 9/11, World War I, World War II, all brought about so that they could gain control and entrance into the Palestinians' land? The Jewish people, it's not anti-Semite to say that, that's a fact, to create the state of Israel so everybody could come home, called Aliyah. They've been working on that for 100 years. I think for the first 50 years it was all incognito. Nobody knew about it. But there were chaos and anarchy caused in countries like Argentina and Iraq and elsewhere, even in the United States, back in the 1920s and 1930s. And anti-Semitism was, sentiments were created, and people felt uncomfortable or afraid, and they were moving into Israel. It was all intentional. Created by the people who are planning this Zionist state of Israel. So what does it have to do with the Book of Enoch? Does it have anything to do with the Book of Enoch? I believe it does. And if you ponder it a moment, which is why I make my videos, so we can all listen, and just, I don't expect people to agree with everything I say, but I can come up with some interesting conversation, and people can take notes like I do. Every day when I watch videos, I'm taking notes, and I'm ordering books, and I'm reading the books. I don't believe anybody. But I thought about it. Who are the players in this world? So first and foremost, I'll say one player, the hugest group of players, are we the people, we average citizens. I don't care where you live. You can live in China, you can live in Brazil, you can America, Europe, Africa. Generally speaking, the masses of people are just we the people. Most of us are oblivious to what is going on. You might have an inkling, but you only believe what you've been told or what they taught us. Okay, so that's the biggest group, we the people. Okay, who else are the players? Well, we know they have castles and kings and queens and dukes and princesses all over Europe. And in the Middle East, it was the Pharaoh and the big temples. In Israel, or I shouldn't call it Israel, but the land of Canaan and Palestine, Jerusalem, thousands of years ago, there were the Palestinian people, the Phoenicians, and some Jewish elites that even built King Solomon's temple. And then, of course, all around the world there were tribes, natives, indigenous, the Australians, Aborigines, the Eskimos, the Native Indians, the Mayans, the Ticans, the Peruvians, Africans. There were tribes, and they had shamans. And then you have, in India, the Hindus, and in China, the Buddhists. So let me try to narrow it down a little bit simpler. The Hindus, the Buddhists, the Middle East would be the Mohammedans, the Islamics, Arabs, the Christians, and the Jews, and the shamanic tribes, indigenous people all over the world. So the indigenous people all over the world had their priest shamans. The Christianity started a couple thousand years ago with the coming of Jesus, the Messiah. So we Christians believe. And that Messiah was rejected by the Jews. So many of them believe, but not all of them. And then around 600 years, 500 years after Christ was Muhammad, a prophet, which was the Islamic religion. And then there was still the mysteries of the Indian people in India, the Hindus, and the mystery religion to most of us Americans, the Buddhism in China, and associated countries, Thailand, Vietnam, Japan, all in that area. and a couple different off religions like Zoroastrianism or Pythagoreanism with the Iran and other places. So anyways, I've said that. So let me narrow it down a little bit more. So the three religions that most of us know about are the Islamic religion of the Arabs, the Christian religion of a third of the world, most of us in Central North America, Europe and all that, and the Jewish people who have been dispersed all over the world and have placed themselves into aristocratic positions, owners of companies and businesses, with a desperate attempt to be in positions of power and leadership for whatever reasons. So those are the three big ones. And then, of course, the other two, again, Buddhism and Hindu. And then, of course, the smaller one, which is everywhere, different types of shamanistic religions. So the common denominator, whether you're into the shamanistic religions in Peru, American Indians, or Russia, or Australia, wherever, the tribes, they had connections to the mystery world, the mysterious world, the spiritual world. They took drugs or meditation and different kinds of structures or ways to connect to the spiritual realm. They have totem poles or symbols like dragons and eagles. And then, of course, with the Buddhists and the Hindus, very interesting, mysterious religions, mystical. No doubt about it. And that's not been so far the focal point of my research, although it does have something to be seriously, in my opinion, related to mysticism. Christianity and Islamic religions, the Muslims and the Christians, it's pretty basic. It's Prophet Muhammad and Messiah Jesus. And then, of course, the third one out is the Jewish peoples, and for the most part, for thousands of years, a people without a nation since they were dispersed from that area thousands of years ago. I know that's a lot to say. So how many are there? There's the Chinese, Buddhism, Indian, Hinduism. I know I'm repeating myself, but I'm just trying to get this simplified. Christian, Islam, Muslims, Judaism, and shamanism. 6. And some various other ones. So 6. The 3 I'm concerned with for this video will be the Christian, Islam, and Judaism. It seems that with Christianity, the Jews back then rejected the anticipated Messiah that was prophesied to come. And apparently the Arabs were treated harshly, even the Crusades, and there was a lot of destruction in the Arab world, the entire Middle East, Northern Africa probably more. And apparently the spiritual realm, if that's the way it works, sent the Prophet Muhammad to guide them in their religion, Islam. And in the Islamic biblical books, it's mentioned Jesus and a lot of stuff that's in the Christian biblical books. And of course, a lot of that is in the Bible for the Christians. And some of that, or a lot of that interesting material, is in the Jewish ancient text. So whether you're talking about shamanistic tribes all over the world, or Hinduism, or Buddhism, or Christianity, or Islam, or the Jewish religion, seemingly fundamentally some kind of Kabbalistic history, they all have stories about the other world, gods, beings. That's the common denominator. So when somebody just ponders that and thinks about it and says, well, you know, before the coming of Columbus to America, North America, Central America, South America, there were indigenous tribes who had shamans and who had some kind of religion, who were able to leave their body, go into this other world, spiritual travel, whatever you have it, even in Australia, Russia. And then the three religions, again I said, I know I'm repeating myself as a reason, the Jewish religion, the Christian religion, the Islamic religion, and then the two that are out there that really have not been part of my research, the Buddhism and Hinduism, has always kind of escaped me, and I haven't included it in my research. But I'm starting to take those two religions and see them for what they are, and that is, plus or minus, it seems to be part of the Kabbalistic type thinking. That's what I was getting at. So whether it is shamanism or Hinduism or Buddhism or the Jewish Kabbalistic system, it still has all this mysticism. And maybe the rational one to most of us in the world, the rational religions, was Christianity. A lot of us didn't dwell into the mysticism. The church tried to squelch that. Hope all that made sense with my opening. Maybe it will when I read this, and will cause people to ponder about the different religions of the world, which aren't really that numerous. And they have some common denominator. When I went to community college and took a comparative religious course, taught by an Iranian teacher, by the way, and she put up on the board the different commandments or rules for the different religions. It was pretty much fundamentally the same. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, stuff like that. So all these different religions, whether it is China and all the other countries, Thailand, Vietnam, Japan, that whole area, Korea, or whether it was in India, the Hindus, you know, they had Shiva, Kali, goddess of destruction. They were all similar. Christian religion have devil, demons. It's all similar. In the Jewish religion, they have their evil characters, and in the Islamic religion, they had the evil characters. And all over the world, the shamanistic religions, like in the Peruvians, when a young boy was selected to be a shama, I've mentioned this before, a spiritual being would appear to the child at night. Let's say the existing shama was getting on in years, and the spiritual being would say, you're going to be the new shama, which means he would have to start training with the older man, shama, that existed, or woman, for years before he would actually be the next shama, the priest of the tribe, and be able to solve problems, get cures and stuff like that. And if the little boy was afraid, which normally they would be and were, they would say, I don't want to be the shama. And then the spiritual being would say, well, then you shall surely die. And so he would say, okay, I'll be the shama. But my point there is, even though these people were taught the secrets, like in Peru, from some of the books I've read, even in Hawaii and other places, they have these similar religions. The Huma, this one's from the Hawaiian area, the Huna Code in Religions. Max Freedom Long, I read this a long time ago. In this new book, Max Freedom Long gives us what might be called the last installment of one of the most fascinating stories of research ever told. A story of the effect to learn how the native priest in Hawaii performed their firewalking and did their instant healing. So I've got to read this again, because when I was reading back in 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, before I started making videos, I didn't highlight or mark up stuff. So to make a video on this, I'm going to have to read it again, which I will probably consume and learn a lot more, because I didn't know as much then as I know now. But just another example in Hawaii, the firewalkers, the spiritual connections. So what's it got to do with the Book of Enoch? I believe there's only one world. I don't believe in the Galactic Federation. Some aliens coming to save planet Earth. I think the story is in the books, and all this. I believe the spiritual realm certainly exists. I believe that I am a spiritual being inside this biological body. Of course, when you look at an aura, if you can see an aura, it's actually something outside this physical body. It's like this physical body is inside some kind of balloon that you can see through. That's what the aura looks like. So we're all spiritual beings, and there is a spiritual world, and all spiritual beings aren't in biological bodies like humans. Although they might enter bodies of animals or other beings, gray aliens, reptilian beings, and these other beings that do exist, and I think that they're, generally speaking, living on the earth, in the earth, under the earth, or interdimensional, coming from into this realm through portals in the air and other places, as if you've watched some of the UFO videos or listened to abductees and read some books. Even the gray aliens could walk right through a wall. And some of the UFOs were seen coming out of a portal, gray circular thing in the sky, like a vortex, and poof, out would come a UFO craft. Or they would be fleeing away and a portal would open in front of them and they would go into it. So it is a question, really, is what is our reality? And it appears to me it's a manifested reality, an unusual reality, material reality, not a spiritual reality. So, with that said, on the next couple videos in the 116 series of Freemasonry and Satanism, I will try to investigate in depth the Book of Enoch, and there were many documents, scrolls on rocks, whatever, monuments, of the story of mankind and how it was created, and some of the problems occurring with the creation, with the angels who were sent down here to earth to interact with humans, and some of the things that they did. And I've read some other material by other people that are trying to say it was some kind of beings, aliens from Nibiru, Planet X, the Pleiades, Sirius B, the star system, and other star system, that these other beings came in spaceships and made man or used existing animals on Earth and created man in their image or different images, and that some of we the people might be of different type of alien DNAs, not all the same, like Rh negative. I realize this is a lot to absorb. Sorry about that, phone ringeth, gotta do my day job. So the first book I was looking at, I was watching some videos talking about the Book of Enoch. And in the scope of my investigation, with almost or over 400 hours of videos on YouTube right now, and a collection of over 500 books and thousands of pages of documents, and watched thousands of videos and hundreds of magazines, I really didn't think I had an in-depth understanding, or even a basic understanding, about the Book of Enoch. So I didn't know how it fit, what was Enoch? So let me read a little bit. This one here is by Timothy Sackett, PhD. There were several investigators, researchers, smart people, who translated the ancient Hebrew, Aramaic from Arabia, the Middle East, Arabic, Hebrew, Greek text of these ancient stories of the creation of mankind. This is R.C. Charles. I ordered this book, and I already had this book. I may have some more on it. And it also involves recently that video I made. Got a lot of work to do here. On the Dead Sea Scrolls, this is part of the ancient information. I have another book by the Dead Sea Scrolls by Michael Wise, Martin Abig Jr., Edward Cook. Let's see when this one was published. This is the Dead Sea Scrolls. A new translation, copyright 1996. So I will continue focusing on the Dead Sea Scrolls, and this is the other one by Miller Burroughs. I already made one video recently. And it talks about the war of the sons of light with the sons of darkness. It was a previous video. And this one was published originally in 1955. So then you have this one here, the one I'm going to read from a little bit, and a little other material. And also, I looked up the Dead Sea Scrolls in Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma. And I looked up the Dead Sea Scrolls in, I did the topic of witchcraft out of this book, and Dead Sea Scrolls was in here. And I went on Wikipedia. I got 24 pages. You can see that it's all highlighted. I read it thoroughly with a fine-tooth comb. And it was tying in with King Solomon's temple over there in Jerusalem, Israel. Look at this big basin here. This big brass tub with these bowls. There's some more basins here. 1, 2, 3. King Solomon's temple, the 2 columns. Like the columns that are on Freemasonic temples. I know I like to get to the nitty-gritty of this stuff, but when you look at the King Solomon's temple, and you see those 2 columns, one there, one there, and you see this pointy thing right out front here. Looks like an obelisk, like in your downtown city square. So the 2 columns are on the Freemasonic books, the Scottish Rite magazine, called The New Age. See the 2 columns, and see these beings with these hoods over them, and their strange feet, and the looks like a naked woman under this guy's head here. And an ankh here. An ankh, the T on this ankh, as you can see it in the middle of this video. The T, just the T, means divine. And the circle on top of it symbolizes a snake. Divine serpent. Look up the Tau, T-A-U, on Yahoo image sites. I've gone over that. So you got these Freemasonic buildings that look like that. And then you have these King Solomon temples looking like this. So there's a definite connection between the Freemasons, and there's a lot about King Solomon's temple and the rebuilding of it in Freemasonic literature. Here's a Scottish Rite magazine. You can see it on the bottom, what it says. Scottish Rite. And the columns, and the columns. New Age magazine. I guess you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to say, wait a minute, what's going on here? What's with the New Age, the columns, King Solomon's temple, these beings on there, the triangle, liberty, equality, fraternity. Liberty, equality, fraternity for whom? for the Freemasons? What about us? They call us, the Freemasons call us profane. Not nice Jewish people call us goyim or goy, means cattle. And to most of the Jewish people, if you're non-Jewish, you're a Gentile. And of course the question is, what is a Jewish person? I mean, it's not a race. They're not black, white, brown, red. They're any race of people. And they're not all of one religion. So when I say not all Jewish people are in on the New Age, New World Order Zionism, there's the key. So are they of, which I don't believe, but are they of a different DNA than the rest of us? Did some angels or beings breed with whatever on earth and create an offshoot of the human race of a different DNA? They talk about Rh negative. What does this have to do with Planet X, Nibiru, Anunnaki, reptilian beings, Ra, Osiris, Isis, Horus, the all-seeing eye on the US $1 bill? That's a lot to say, isn't it? Just to get the video started. So I got the R.H. Charles edition of the Book of Enoch, so I thought when I ordered it. But all it wound up being was a intense description of all the mistakes he found in other people's interpretation. And the book came from India. So for my 10 or whatever dollars I spent, what's going on with my lighting here? I feel I got a little cheated on the deal. So I had to order another R.H. Charles. Which is in the mail, coming to me. So for this video, I'll read from the one book I do have, Timothy Sakich, PhD, which I'll start reading now, and then I'll move around here a little bit, because I've got so much material on this. It's going to take 2 or 3 videos. If you really want to find out what is the Book of Enoch, what is the beginning and the creation of mankind according to this material. Certainly not that I believe everything. I'm a Christian. I know what I learned going to Christian school, catechism, when I was young. So I only know what I was taught. But I've taken it upon myself to try to get a view of the bigger picture and share it with people who watch my videos. Interestingly enough, and to be fair to all the people in the world, the Jewish people know, the average citizen or person out there, they know what they've been taught. And the same thing with the Arabs, the people who are seriously into the Islamic religion. A lot of Arabs are probably not. They're probably just people like most places who are trying to survive. Same thing with the Hindus or the Buddhists or tribal peoples all over the world. They grew up with their traditions. So I'm not a particular fan of people bashing other people's religion. Except when they want to destroy and enslave all the other peoples. Or if it's some kind of satanic, barbaric religion with rituals or practices that sacrifice people and a lot of other uglies we don't want to have done to us, the general population. And what does this have to do with the UFO and alien topic that's out there? A lot of people are talking about the Galactic Federation, secret space programs by the government, NASA. Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Apparently all in the beginnings involved Aleister Crowley, Jack Parsons, and a lot of people who were into the occult. And all the symbolism at NASA. And even the government, the federal government, and the United Nations has a lot of occult symbolism. So there's a lot of common denominators here, and the huge one is the serpent and the occult on all the religions. Evil, grotesque beings, whether they're dragons or serpents, monsters, Frankenstein, werewolves. So there are these entities that have been talked about, cited, written about, documented all over Earth about these crazy looking different type of creatures, whether they're giants or little pixies. Again, maybe some of the material in here will explain some of this stuff. That's why it took such a long time getting the opening here. So anyways, the book of Behind the Bible, the book behind the Bible, the great destiny of humankind, revealed to our father Enoch. So Enoch existed, lived on earth before the great flood. He was the grandfather of Noah, of Noah's Ark, who put 2 animals and some people and escaped the great flood. So there was a flood, according to documented history. All over the world, I've got the books, I've read the books, even this book, the Book of the Hopi. They talk about otherworldly beings, or I wouldn't call them otherworldly, but not your average native Hopi Indian. Some other entities help them secure underground facilities to survive the Great Flood. And apparently even in Ecuador and elsewhere in South America, there are huge caverns look like they've been cut out with lasers from the top of the Andes all the way down like steps to the Pacific Ocean, apparently under the ocean. And on top of an island to survive the Great Flood. Over there in Greece, apparently there's all these underground facilities. So whoever it was before the Great Flood wanted to save a remnant of people all over the planet. So all the different native tribes, whichever continent you were on, there are these survival stories with the aid of some other beings. We all know about Atlantis and Mu, Hyperborea, other ancient civilizations, apparently far more advanced than we are today. Advanced in a different way. One of the advancements they had, apparently, were anti-gravity devices and other high-tech devices. So let me read from the Book of Enoch, see if all this makes for an interesting conversation. Apparently this book has a signature by the author. You never know what you're going to get when you buy used books. And some of the contents are the Book of the Watchers. Who are the Watchers? The Book of Parables. These sayings. Jesus used to say a lot of parables. The Book of the Courses of the Luminaries. The different sun and the moon in the sky. Who controls the courses in of the sun and the moon and the stars, etc. The Book of Dream Visions. What are our dreams? Sometimes we have crazy dreams. A lot of prophecy came from dreams. Where do we go when we sleep and travel? The Book of Exhortation and Promised Blessings. Exhortation. The Witness from Exodus. So what was Exodus? Wasn't that when the Hebrews were escaping Egypt and the sea parted and they went through there? And then the Egyptian Pharaoh and his army was following, and they entered into the sea with the parting walls. And when they were in the middle of it, it all collapsed. And recently there have been some press releases in the news, you can look it up. But apparently some divers and researchers and archaeologists were diving in the Red Sea between Egypt and the Israel in that area, and they found lots of chariots and soldiers, military weapons and all that. So somebody's trying to convince the rest of us that all this did happen. It's hard to know who to trust. And the witness from other documents. Like I said, got a lot of material here. It's going to take several videos, so this one opening will be the only opening. After that, it'll just be more material from different sources. So R.H. Charles wrote a very long, and some say spectacular, introduction to his translation of Enoch and Noah's writings. So it's Noah wrote some of the stuff he learned about from Enoch, his grandfather. And Oxford's Pseudographia. Charles attempts to discredit both these writers as obvious. So anyways, it says on here about the importance of spiritual discernment and about two forms of knowledge called lower and higher by the sages. The lower and higher knowledge. So I guess the lower knowledge would be all of what we know here in our physical lives, and higher knowledge would be the other world knowledge. Charles' introduction uses a classic form of scholarship and is a good example of what is meant by lower knowledge. So scholarship, studying books, going to the university is lower knowledge. But to make revision to this translation, I had to call upon, this author, Timothy Sakach, PhD. So it says here that I had to call upon powerful or higher knowledge or spiritual discernment. So this author says he has to call upon the power of higher knowledge or spiritual discernment to edit Charles' work and make this translation clear and plain. Because without that, we could not only rely on the work of scholars whose desire is often to make the spiritual sound foolish and make themselves sound intelligent. So I'm just trying to read my highlighted portions here. Now the truth shines, and the power of Enoch is evident. No other document has had such profound effect on the rest of scriptures. The Bible, whose ever Bible, Islamic Bible, Jewish biblical books, Christian Bible, maybe the world. When the words of Enoch are known and understood, one can sense their influence on the other writers, including Moses, the prophets, and the apostles. Enoch established the context within which all who love the truth must write. His writings contain powerful, hope-filled messages that were intended for us to see and hear from the very beginning. Hope-filled messages that was intended for all humans to hear from the very beginning of time, our reality as we know it, whatever that is. So strong is the influence of Enoch on their thoughts that neither the Hebrew scriptures or the New Testament could have been written without Enoch. Wow. So you can't write the Jewish books or the Christian books without Enoch. Moses, the prophets, and apostles did not question the authority and inspiration of Enoch. Should we? That's what this writer is saying. Enoch is the mysterious righteous father of us all, and the scribe who wrote the book behind the Bible. So apparently Enoch, I guess if he was human, was the first human to write down about God and God's world and our world. The first recorded writing, period, according to what's in these books. The first book of Enoch is called the Book of the Watchers. It talks about an earth unknown to us because of its simplicity. So apparently, God, when he created the earth and planet and the animals and plants and people, sent some angels here to guide us. But it all took a nasty turn when the angels saw the human women in the earthly paradise and decided to use it for themselves and some other horrible things. So the angels sent by God are also called the Watchers. That's very important. All right, continuing on. During this time, it was not unusual for beings from the domain of Elohim to visit and communicate with humanity. Elohim, would that be the domain of God? To visit and communicate with humanity. Do they call the Anunnaki Elohim? The aliens? These were called the Watchers in Enoch's writing. We would call them angels today, but these were really messengers sent to help those who would inherit salvation. To inherit salvation. However, as the population of the earth increased, so also did the problems. Led by a watcher by the name of Samjaza, other messengers found that the daughters of mankind were very beautiful and alluring, and they wanted to take wives to themselves and have children by them. And they wanted to take wives, that's what I have. To do this, they made for themselves bodies that in their twisted way of thinking were well endowed with penises like that of horses. That's what it says here. One account says that they took the form of the husbands, so they appeared to the women as their husbands. By sexually uniting with the woman, the Watchers, so these angels sent by the Nephilim, Nephilim comes later, sinned and committed a big error, and caused the women to conceive and give birth to both sons and daughters. So apparently when these angels sent by Elohim had sex with human women and gave birth to sons and daughters, these were called Nephilim. And Elohim was the one who sent the angels. The offspring were called Nephilim. And the Nephilim are in the Bible, and apparently they're giants. And the Smithsonian Institute and other discoveries all over the world have been hiding the discovery of these giant beings for quite a while. So if you're digging a pool in your backyard in Ohio and you come across a skeleton that's 30 feet long, you can believe that the guy in the black suits will show up and confiscate it, which has been documented in the past. Seems to me the Smithsonian is just another government arm meant to keep the rest of us in the dark about reality. So there is only a brief reference to this in the book of Genesis, where it is written that they gave birth to giants, or at least to men of great stature. 300 cubits tall. However, they also gave birth to women who were even more attractive than human women. In other words, they pushed the limits on both the male and female genetics, and thus became a product of both physical and spiritual forces. But in doing this, these messengers, the watchers, missed the goal that was set before humanity, and instead deceived and corrupted the human race. From this tragedy has proceeded all the stories of giants that we love to teach our children. And dragon slayers, the beanstalk Jack, the Shrek. That's what it says in this book. And also sirens of the Odysseus, witchcraft, spiritualism, and prostitution all came from these. So these angels from heaven, from Elohim, corrupted the human race. But the great era of the Watchers did not stop with sex. They also taught us to use makeup, face painting, charms, astrology, the use of contracts in place of righteousness, how to build weapons, and how to kill, how to make drugs or potions from plants, and many other things that humans in their innocence could have survived without. This came about under the leadership of another watcher named Azuzel. Upon his head had been placed all of the deception that has turned humankind from the precious relation with their Creator into the interpersonal relationship based upon doing wrong and following partial and corrupt knowledge. Azul is the Hebrew word for Leviticus 16. Azul, A-Z-A-Z-E-L, is the Hebrew word for Leviticus in Leviticus 16 concerning one of the two goats used in the Day of Atonement, or Yom Kippur. That would be a Jewish holiday. One goat was set apart for Iwaiwa, I can't say some of these words, and was sacrificed because of the uncleanliness of the children of Israel, and because of their violations caused by all their errors and mistakes. The other goat was set apart by Elzalzel. You see if you can pronounce that word. Right there where my finger is. Azazel. But the goat on which the lot of Azel fell is caused to stand alive before Yahweh to make atonement, to send it into the wilderness to Azel. Then Aaron shall lay both his hands on the head of the live goat, and shall confess over it all the crookedness of the children of Israel, and all their violations caused by their errors and mistakes, and shall put them on the head of the goat, and shall send it away into the wilderness by the hand of a fit man. That's what it says there. You can read this and pause it. So what does this have to do with the problems we face today? Why send this goat away after confessing over it the errors, mistakes, and crookedness of the people? Because Azel, the watchers who led the people astray, was taken to a place on earth to be kept incarcerated until the time of judgment. So this angel was taken away and incarcerated until the time of judgment. This is the meaning of the service of the Day of Atonement. So like I said, I've got a lot to learn here in my studies. Yet few now even know that messengers under the leadership of Azel are held accountable for the problems and crookedness that brings all the suffering and trouble upon humankind even to this day. Sometimes I get off to a bad start by reading. So these messengers, these angels, this leadership under Azel, they are held accountable for the problems and crookedness that brings all the suffering and trouble upon humankind even to this day. What this high day really tells us is that the sin must be placed on the head of another, and that this crookedness and massive error is not our fault, according to this author. It is the fault of the one who brought it to earth in the first place. It is this understanding that makes Enoch's Book of the Watchers so very important to our spiritual well-being and life. The Hebrew word translated atonement is, or in ancient Hebrew, Yom Kippur, I guess. It shows you some kind of language here I don't understand where my finger is. Yom Kippur, which means to cover as with a lid, so putting a lid on something. Aaron's two hands on the head of the goat of Azel, by putting a lid on it and sending it off to Azel in the wilderness, shows that the crookedness and wrongdoing is the fault of the watchers, the angels sent by God, or Elohim. I'll have to look further into the word Elohim. I've read it before. I kind of know what it means, but I'd like to be exact here. So very important to our spiritual well-being in life. The Hebrew word translated atonement is the ancient Hebrew Yom Kippur, which means to cover with a lid. Aaron's two hands on the head of the goat for Azel, by putting a lid on it and sending it off to Azel in the wilderness, shows that the crookedness and wrongdoing is the fault of the watchers, the angels, who went astray, not to do the people who suffer it because of it. Yom Kippur is the day of covering, the day of atonement. Came to be in the 16th century, the 1500s. Enoch recorded the true story in the Book of the Watchers, and here it is. So that's all the pre-reading, and we can get started reading the Book of the Watchers. Also looked up the Book of Enoch in the Encyclopedia Judaica. So I've got a lot of sources to read about. I'm trying to make this video clear for the common guy and girl. So bear with me. So let's see what I can find about the Book of Enoch. In this book, before I start reading from that other book, because it's only this long here, so it'll be the first source I do. There's one paragraph there, one column. In the Book of the Occult, Enoch, seventh master of the world after Adam. So remember, the first two people created by God, supposedly, is Adam and Eve. So he's the seventh master of the world after Adam. Author of the Kabbalah. Now that was interesting. Enoch is the author of the Kabbalah, which is the cult that's been accused of sorcery and witchcraft. In the Book of the Tarot cards, he is identical with the thought of the Egyptians, though the Cadmus of the Phoenicians, the Ptolemaids of the Greeks. According to tradition, he did not die, but was carried up to heaven, whence he will return at the end of time. So remember, this is before Noah's flood. So Adam and Eve were before Noah's flood, the Garden of Eden. All right, it says here, only reading my highlighted portion. In this work, the spiritual world is minutely described as the region of Sheol, Sheol, the place of the wicked. The spiritual world is minutely described as the place of the wicked. Wow. The book also deals with the history of the fallen angels. There we go, the Watchers, who had sex with human women, creating giants. This is the Encyclopedia of the Occult. The book also deals with the history of the fallen angels, their relations with the human species, and the foundations of magic. Wow. That's why I picked this book first. Like I said, I have numerous sources here. I've been reading about this quite a bit. I'm trying to get it up here. What does all this say about the beginning of the world? What's it have to do with the Kabbalah, the state of Israel, the New Age, the New World Order? The book says that there were angels who consented to fall from heaven that they might have intercourse with the daughters of earth. For in those days the sons of men having multiplied, there were born to them daughters of great beauty. And when the angels, or sons of heaven, beheld them, they were filled with desire, wherefore they said to one another, Come, let us choose wives from among the race of men, and let us beget children. Their leader, Samyaza, answered thereupon and said, Perchance you will be wanting in the courage needing to fulfill this resolution, and then I alone shall be answerable for your fall. So this one leader was going to take responsibility for what they were about to do. But they swore that they would in no wise repent, and that they would achieve their whole design. So they were bent on having sex with the women and having offspring. These angels from God called Watchers. Now there were 200 who descended from on Mount Armon. So this would be over there in the Middle East, in the area known as the land of Canaan, later called Palestine. And then after the Balfour Agreement and some backdoor dealings with the Rothschilds, the people who control our planet, the people that control that land now call it Israel. Just being exact here. And it was from this time that the mountain received its designation, which signifies the Mount of the Oath. So they called it Mount Armon because this is where the 200 angels called messengers, fallen angels, came down to do their dirty deed, have offspring with human beings, which were giants and other kinds of beasts. They took wives with whom they had intercourse, to whom they also taught magic, the art of enchantment, and the diverse properties of roots and trees. Amazak gave instructions on all secrets of sorcery. Here we go, witchcraft. So these angels taught some humans witchcraft. Bakari was the master of those who studied the stars. It's below zero outside. I got dry mouth in the house with the heater. Can't speak. In this account, we see a description of the profanation of mysteries. The fallen angels exposed their occult and heavenly born wisdom to earthly women. The fallen angels exposed their occult and heavenly born wisdom to earthly women, whereby it was profaned and brute force, taking advantage of the profanation of divine law and reigned supreme. Only a deluge, a world flood, could wipe out the stain of the enormity and pave the way for restitution. So in my videos I've been saying the reason why there was the Great Flood, according to all my research, was that the human population had to be erased because it was polluted with all this genetic manipulation, creating monsters, giants, as we shall see. So only a deluge, a world flood, could wipe out the stain of the enormity and pave the way for the restitution of the balance between the human and the divine. So there needs to be a balance between we humans and the divine, and somebody has interfered with that balance, which had been disturbed by these unlawful revelations. A transaction of the Book of Enoch, a translation, I'm having trouble reading today, was published by Archbishop Lawrence in 1821, the Ethiopian text in 1838, and there is a good edition by Dowman in 1851. Philippe and Eldwad have also written special works on the subject. So that's what's in the Encyclopedia of the Occult on the Book of Enoch. Like I said, I'm going to read from many different sources. So if I go over it and over it and over it and over it, we're going to get it. I'm going to get it. And I'm going to learn. And if you're watching your video, you might pick up a tidbit or two also. Alright, let me read from this book. Timothy Sackett, PhD. In his translation, in his interpretation, and again, we have many sources, so this ought to be interesting. Albeit, it may take a while, but I think the topic is worthwhile to investigate, and investigate thoroughly. The Book of the Watchers, the words of the blessing of Enoch, wherewith he blessed the elect, chosen, those who do what is right, who will be living in the day of the tribulation, when all the wicked and godless are to be removed. So according to this prophecy by Enoch, who was before the Great Flood, apparently the first human being to put stuff in writing from some messages and communication he had from the God world, God, and angels. So I suppose that's pretty important. And Enoch, a right-doing man, whose eyes were opened by Elah, saw the vision of the Holy One, God, in the heavens, and took up his parable and said, "The messengers showed me. From them I heard everything, and from them I understood as I saw, but not for this generation, but for a remote one which is to come. Concerning the elect, I took up my parable concerning them and said, the set apart great one will come from his dwelling." So the set apart great one, I suspect that would have possibly been Jesus. The eternal Elohim will tread upon the earth, even on Mount Sinai. That's where Moses went up to the mountain to get the Ten Commandments. And appear from his camp in the strength of his might from the heaven of heavens. And all will be struck with fear, and the watchers will quake. The angels will quake. Great fear and trembling will seize them. So this is the angels, the ones who caused the problems. Corrupted mankind, supposedly. To the ends of the earth, and the high mountains will be shaken. And the high hills will be made low, and melt like wax before the flame. So mountains will melt. The earth will be wholly torn apart, and all living things upon the earth will die. A judgment will be upon all. But with the right doers, he will make peace, and will protect the chosen, and mercy will be on them. And they will all belong to Elad, and they will be prospered, and they will be blessed. He will help them all, and light will appear, and he will make peace with them. And look, he comes with 10,000 of his set-apart ones, to execute judgment on all, and to destroy all the ungodly, and to convict all flesh of all the works of the ungodliness that they have ungodly committed, and of all of the hard things that ungodly sinners have spoken against him. I remember when I started this video, I mentioned that commercial I saw. Totally blew me away. Like I said, it was like a big complex, and it was under lockdown, and some monitors turned on everywhere. You've seen movies with that stuff. And a voice said, those who kill the most people will be allowed to live. So he was telling that to everybody, thousands of people. Whichever of you kill the most of your other people all around you, you'll live. And the slaughter began. And I'm thinking of the Hunger Games movie, and I'm thinking about all this other stuff. Somebody is really trying to destroy humankind, so it seems. It's just mentally disturbing, this stuff. Of course, then they give us a TV program called Lucifer. Then they normalize the new age gay agenda lifestyle with Modern Family, and even promote free sex with 2.5 Men and Seinfeld, and having a different woman in bed on every show. So there's somebody's doing this, in my opinion. And I'm not a prude. I'm a normal guy out there. Football, cold beer, go barbecue, have friends, parties. But somebody's taking it all to an extreme, in my opinion. It's a little scary, even for a guy like me. So I'm reading this. Am I trying to preach this or say this is the truth? No, I'm reading it, and I'll allow myself time to formulate an opinion. But I'd like to know what the Book of Enoch and all this other stuff, the Dead Sea Scrolls, is all about. And if I spend some time and make a few videos, it might be worthwhile. Chapter 2. Observe everything that takes place in the heaven. Note how they do not change their orbits. So we all know that we see the Saturn or the moon and the sun, and everything doesn't seem to change its pattern, the Big Dipper and all that. Everything is in place, consistent. See the luminaries which are in heaven, how they all rise and set in order, each in its season. They do not transgress against their appointed order. Look at the earth and pay attention to the things that take place upon it from the first to the last. See how steadfast they are, and how none of the things on earth change, but all the works of Elad, sounds like calling Elad God, are evident to you. Observe the summer and the winter, and how the whole earth is filled with water, and clouds and dew and rain lie upon it. All right, moving on. Chapter 4. And again, observe the days of summer, how the sun is above the earth and high overhead. And you seek shade and shelter because of the heat of the sun. The earth also burns with growing heat, and you cannot walk barefoot on the earth or on a rock because of the heat. Remember, this is in the Book of Enoch, translated from Hebrew and Arabic and Greek documents over the ages. numerous sources. Chapter 5. Observe how the trees cover themselves with green leaves and bear fruit. Pay attention to this, and know with regard to all his works, God's, and recognize how he lives forever, and has made them this way, and all his works go on from year after year forever. And look how the sea and the rivers in like manner accomplish and do not change their task from his commandments. But you have not been resolute, nor have you fully carried out the commandments of the Lord. Rather, you have turned away and spoken proud and hard words out of your impure mouths against his greatness. Moving on. All the doers of wrong and godless shall make curses by you. For you, the godless, there shall be a curse. And for all of you sinners, there shall be no salvation. But on you all shall abide a curse. All the right doers will rejoice. All the right doers will rejoice. There will be forgiveness of gross errors and serious mistakes, and every mercy, peace, and larceny. There will be salvation to them, a considerable light. So this is before the flood. This is part of the Old Testament. And when Jesus came, obviously the New Testament, it is said that whoever believes in me shall be saved. So here it says that all right doers will rejoice. So right doers, in my opinion, will be people who believe in God and try to do the right thing, although we don't always do the right thing. We are sinners, but it says here right doers, the people who believe, this is my interpretation, that there will be forgiveness of gross errors, serious mistakes, even mercy, peace, and leniency. I read that wrong. There will be salvation to them, a considerable light. Chapter 6. It came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied in those days, were born to them beautiful daughters of pleasing appearance. And the messengers, the angels sent from God, the children of the heaven, saw and lusted after them. And the messengers, and said to one another, Come, let us choose wives from among the children of men, and have children by them. Samjizi, their leader, said to the messengers, I fear you will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of the great error. And they all answered him and said, Let us swear an oath, and all bind ourselves by mutually invoking a curse, to not abandon this plan, but to do this thing. Then they all swore together and bound themselves by mutually invoking a curse. There were 200 who descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon, and they called it Mount Hermon because they had sworn and bound themselves by mutually invoking a curse. So before it was called Armon, where I read it earlier. So apparently somebody's trying to correct this text. So the names of these leaders was Samlizi, their leader Araba, Ramiel, Kokabal, Tula, Rola, Daniel, Ezekiel, Barakul, Azel, Aramis, Bartella, Aniel, Zakwa, Sam, Peel, Satire, Torah, Jamjil, Serial. These are the chiefs of the tens. I'll put it up here so you can have some fun trying to say those names on the top. Chapter 7. All the others with their leaders took wives. Man, I'm having trouble speaking. All the others with their leaders took wives, and each chose one for himself, and they went into them to defile themselves with them. And they taught their wives charms and enchantments, and cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants. And the wives became pregnant, and they gave birth to great giants, whose height was 300 cubits. These took all the property, food, and possessions of mankind. Wow, these giants took all the property, food, and possessions of mankind. And when mankind could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them, cannibalized mankind, they ate people. And the giants began to sin against birds, beasts, reptiles, and fish. And they began to devour each other's flesh and drink the blood. Then the earth laid accusation against these lawless ones. So if this is what was happening before the Great Flood, whether it's a metaphor or whether it was some kind of beings, I don't know. I'm doing my research and studying. But if this was happening, one could understand the Great Flood and how it had to all be erased. One could understand, even like in the Book of the Hopi and Noah's Ark and other ancient traditions that describe people being assisted to survive the Great Flood. The Great Flood was known ahead of time. Chapter 8. Azazel, I can't say this guy's name, taught mankind to make swords, knives, shields, breastplates, and he made known to them the metals of the earth, the art of working them into bracelets and ornaments, the use of anatomy, the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones, and all coloring dyes. Semjizi taught enchantments, root cutting, Amaros, the resolving of enchantments, Barakul, astrology, Karkabal, the constellation. So these angels were teaching these humans and their offspring these things. Ezekiel, the knowledge of the clouds, Acriel, the signs of the earth, Shamsiel, the signs of the sun, and Sariel, the course of the moon. There arose much godlessness among mankind. They committed fornication. They were led astray and became corrupt in all their ways. And all mankind began to perish. They cried, and their cry went up to heaven. And I'm not trying to be redundant when I say this, but look at what somebody seems to be doing to our planet now. With all this new age and propaganda, mesmerization, TV programming, somebody is trying to destroy decency and family values. And the murder and mayhem going on in the Middle East and all this other crazy things with terrorism and the other stuff that seems to be created, sky spraying of chemicals in the sky, HARP transmitters. Somebody's trying to destroy people, humankind, and planet Earth right now. So it appears to me. But what do I know? But I think other people see it. And I do believe we are a spiritual being in these biological bodies. All right, some more here. Chapter 9. Then Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel, angels mentioned in the Bible, Michael, Uriel, Raphael, Gabriel, looked down from heaven and saw much blood being spilled upon the earth. Well, we can certainly say that's happening. And if things go according to the people planning this New World Order, Civil War #2 in the United States, revolutions in other parts of the world, getting the people with the liberal, progressives, gay agenda, New Age, against the conservative people who want to stick with God. Somebody's trying to create this battle. And apparently it's some evil beings and forces. And they're trying to convince us that there are aliens and galactic federations and all this other stuff, I think it's a grand deception. But again, that's just my thinking. I read this stuff and I expect other people will come up to their own rational conclusions. And I'll probably spend 2, 4, 6 hours going over this material before it's over. So somebody can make a decision, like I'll try to make a decision. What is the truth? And all lawlessness being produced upon the earth. And they talked together and said, the earth made without inhabitant now cries, and the voice of their crying reaches to the gates of heaven. And now to you, the set apart ones of heaven, the souls of mankind make their suit, saying, bring our cause before the Most High. So not enough people, in my opinion, are aware of what's going on. People have been putting up with the sky spraying for a long time, and there's some serious evidence that that sky spraying of chemicals in our sky is a very malevolent, evil program. There's no way that that could all be good. Fluoride in our water, our toothpaste, our food. And fluoride's an aluminum byproduct, and now they're putting it in the sky. It's a corrosive. It's an acid. You put your finger, your hand in raw fluoride, you'll die. It says on your toothpaste, beware, don't swallow this. How many kids probably get some and do swallow it? Just saying, there are forces that seem to be very destructive to humanity, controlling our planet right now. So when I read this, I wonder. And they said to the Lord of the ages, Lord of lords, God of gods, King of kings, the God of the ages, the throne of your glory endures to all the generations of the ages. And your name is set apart, glorious and blessed for all the ages. You made all things. You have the power over all things. And all things are naked and open in your sight. You see all things, and nothing can hide itself from you. So these are ancient documents that were translated from numerous areas over in the Middle East and Europe and Africa. So what does all this mean? You see what Alzu has done, how he has taught all wrongdoing on earth, revealed the eternal secrets that were preserved in heaven, which mankind was striving to learn. So these bad angels, these watchers, were teaching witchcraft and sorcery to people on earth, how to make weapons and how to fight wars, and all kinds of other evil things. And you see Sanjizi, to whom you gave authority to bear rule over his associates. They have all gone to the daughters of mankind upon the earth, slept with the women, defiled themselves, and revealed to them all kinds of wrong ways. These women gave birth to giants, and the giants filled the whole earth with blood and wrongdoing. Now look at this. The souls of those who have died are crying and make their suit to the gates of heaven. So the souls of people who have died are making suit with God, complaining about what happened on earth. I wonder about the millions of people killed in the Middle East. Their souls have to be up there in heaven or somewhere. Are they making suit today, crying to God for justice, for revenge? Just my brain thinking. And their woeful crying ascended and cannot cease because of the lawless deeds that are produced on earth. Lawless deeds. How many of us can trust our politicians right now? And leaders of big corporations like Bill Gates, who says he wants to reduce the population. Ted Turner, that prince over there in England, who said if he could come back as a virus and then he would be able to kill everybody. Kissinger. All these people saying bad things that they really hate we the people. And they got these Georgia USA Guidestones that say they want to maintain a population of 500 million. So I suppose 6 billion of us have to die. We've got some evil forces working on Earth right now. I think a lot of people will agree with that. You know all things before they come to pass. You see these things, yet you allow them. You do not say to us what we are to do with them in regard to these. Chapter 10. Then the Most High, the separate and great one, spoke, and sent Uriel, one of the angels, to the son of Lamech, and said to him, Go to Noah. It would be Noah and his ark, the big ark that saved the animals and people from the great flood. And tell him in my name, hide yourself. Reveal to him the end that is approaching, that the whole earth will be destroyed, and a deluge is about to come upon the whole earth to destroy all that is on it. Instruct him that he may escape, and his seed may be preserved for all the generations of the world. And again the Lord said to Raphael, Bind Elzul hand and foot, cast him into the darkness, make an opening in the desert, which is in the Dangrel, and cast him there. Place upon him rough and jagged rock, kapor him with darkness. I am aware that a lot of people don't want to believe in God and the Bible and want to go with this new age and do as thou wilt. I'm not trying to be a preacher. I've been reading all kinds of books on all kinds of topics. UFOs, aliens, conspiracy theories, Kabbalah, witchcraft, remote viewing, Freemasons. I'm going to continue to move around on different topics. But I expect at some point we can all look at it and start to see what the big puzzle really is. What is it all about? And people have been searching for the answer to those questions throughout history. I agree. All right, it says here, let him abide there forever, the ages. So they're going to bind up Azul and put him in a dungeon or something in the rocks. Let him abide there forever, the ages, and cover his face that he will not see light. And on the day of the great judgment he will be cast into the fire. Heal the earth with the messengers. Heal the earth that the messengers corrupted. So they want to heal the earth. Look what they've done now with Fukushima and many other things. The Gulf oil spill. And who knows how much further this is going to go. The destruction, the corruption. Heal the earth that the messengers corrupted, and proclaim the healing of the earth, that they may heal the plague, and all the children of men may not perish through all the secret things that the watchers disclosed and taught their sons. So are these UFOs, aliens, are these Anunnaki reptilians and gray aliens, the ones who have corrupted everything and are destroying our world? Apparently, that's the case. The whole earth has been corrupted through the works taught by Aziel, the watcher, the angel, and his group. To him all sin corrupted and wrongdoing. And to Gabriel the Lord said, so these are the good angels, Raphael, Gabriel, Uriel. And to Gabriel said the Lord, proceed against the bastards and reprobates, and against the children of fornication, and destroy the children of the watchers from among mankind. So God's going to send Gabriel to destroy the children of the watchers. So are there all these cast out angels and the women they had sex with, and these beings that came from them, all these alien beings among us that are causing all these problems will be destroyed? According to this material written by Enoch before the great flood and found In 1947, the Dead Sea Scrolls, some of this existed 100 years ago in ancient documents. Send them one against the other that they may destroy each other in battle. So I thought that was interesting. So they're going to cause these bad beings to fight each other. And it seems like that's what they do with the dialectic they're using on us now with the Republicans and Democrats and young and old and black and white and Mexican and American and Americans, or the world people against the Arabs. Somebody's trying to get us all to fight against each other. I wonder if most people will be sucked into that. A long life they will not have, and no request their fathers make for you will be granted to their fathers or on their behalf. For they hope to live in eternal life, and that each one of them will live 500 years. And the Lord said unto Michael, another angel, Go bind Samgizi and his associates, who have united themselves with women, so as to have defiled themselves with them in all their uncleanness. And when their sons have slain each other, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth, until the day of judgment. And I am aware, I have to have this little disclosure here, that apparently, not all, I have this little material here. I was watching another video. But there are a lot of Jewish people, who think that we non-Jewish people are these evil people, or that's what they're promoting. I was watching a video on the Leak Project. The ex-Vatican translator Mario Bigelow and Gerald Clark on July 21, 2016. You can look that up. I watched it yesterday, 3/12, 2 days ago. But anyways, there are these leading rabbis who say non-Jew souls come from 3 satanic sources, and that a Jewish soul comes from holiness. There goes my phone again. So they got these rabbis and these teachings. These people, remember, it was the Pharisees, the ancient 2,000 years ago Jewish people, the leaders, who had Jesus crucified. And a lot of Jewish people believed that Jesus was a Messiah, and the other Jews who do not believe that want to destroy those Jews too. But it says right here, according to these people at this video, you can go watch Leak Project, July 21, 2016. You can look up their video. Ex-Vatican translator Mauro Bigelow, Maurobigilino. I save copies of this stuff so nobody can say that I'm not telling the truth. With Gerald Clark, Mercury Rising, Anunnaki. Bigelow says ancient aliens are the Bible, Nibiru, intergalactic sex, genocide, cloning. I just took some notes. Another rabbi, Reedy, says that Jews are an extension of God. Rabbi Ginsburg says Gentiles are genetically inferior to Jews. He says Gentile souls are inferior and have no redeeming quality. Rabbi Friedman asked about Arabs, when he was asked about Arabs, this was in this video, the only way to fight a moral war is the Jewish way. So Rabbi Friedman was asked about the Arabs. And he said the only way to fight a moral war is the Jewish way. Destroy their holy sites, kill the men, women, and children, and cattle. I guess that's what's going on in the Middle East now. Is that a holy war? So apparently there's this sect of the Jewish people called the Chabad, the Chabad. They're at chabad-mafia.com. They're the drug dealers and controllers. The Chabad, they have a Chabad telethon raising money. Chabad providing safe houses for these other participants in the drug trade and all kinds of evil all over the world. And they aid Mossad, the security people over there in Israel. Israel Labs controlling drug labs worldwide. It was in this video. And then, of course, apparently there's so much here in that video about Muriel Bigelow talks about RH negative being Anunnaki or Anunnaki creatures. So there's this thing that has something to do with this, and it's in this book, about that they're saying that these fallen angels and watchers are actually these Anunnaki people from Nibiru, Planet X. Crazy? That's why I have so much work to do here on these videos. So I think I'll read one more page here and end this video. I hope some of it made some sense. But it is a bit perplexing and makes one wonder what these ancient documents are all about. And what should we believe? Personally, I believe that in what Jesus taught, believe in me and ye shall be saved. I believe in the 10 Commandments, don't kill, don't steal, and have one God, don't worship idols, and the rest of the 10 Commandments. Although I'm not perfect about it, I don't observe the Sabbath every Sunday. I don't do a lot of things that I should do. So do we all. But like Jesus said, believe in him and ye shall be saved. And the whole world is aware of Jesus right now, and I'm not sure what other religions teach, but I certainly don't think that for the masses of the people to believe in no God and think that they're soulless. And I see the TV programming and the mind control. I see the sky spraying and the threats of World War III, nuclear wars, and this coming like a freight train, New World Order, New Age, microchipping people. This is all real. The people in the Middle East are dying. They're being evacuated to other countries all over the world, the ones who remain alive. So it is the prophecies are being fulfilled. So it says here, for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth until the day of judgment and the ultimate end, until the judgment that is forever and ever finished. In those days they shall be led off into the abyss of fire, to the torment and the prison which they shall be confined forever. I'm just reading my highlighted portions here. And destroy all the spirits and reprobates and the children of the watchers, because they have wronged mankind. Destroy all wrong from the face of the earth, and let every evil come to an end. Let the plant of doing right and truth appear, and it will prove a blessing. The works of doing right and the truth will be planted in truth and joy forever. And then will all the right doers escape and live until they beget them thousands of children, and all the days of their youth and their old age they will complete in peace. Wouldn't that be nice? People could have families and children and live to old age and in peace and happiness. I remember the world I grew up in. And you could go off into the woods. You could get a boat and go snorkeling or diving or fishing and catch fish. And all kinds of other things and lots of freedoms. But you can't do that anymore. And a lot of the fish and a lot of the natural habitat, animals are gone. And I think there's been a lot of intentional destruction. And all the days of their youth and their old age they will complete in peace. And then shall the whole earth be plowed in righteousness, be planted with trees and full of blessing. And all the children of man will become right doers, and all nations will offer adoration and will praise me, and all will worship me. And the earth will be cleansed from all the defilement, from all the mistakes and errors, from all punishment, and all the torment, and I shall never again send this upon it from generation to generation and forever. So that's my first portion, or part one, of the Book of Enoch. I have numerous sources of material to go over. And whatever the outcome, I'm going to try to understand the Book of Enoch and the other books in the Book of Enoch and the Dead Sea Scrolls. Because that's what I do. I want to figure out what's going on. Just like putting a puzzle together. You can do the whole outline, the whole square, and you can look at it and not know what the puzzle is. And you can put some more pieces of the puzzle. It starts to get filled in. You still really can't tell what it is. Let's say you bought a puzzle at a yard sale and the label was ripped off. But at some point, you keep putting enough pieces of the puzzle, you get an aha moment, and you understand what the puzzle is. And that's what I'm trying to do with all these videos on all these different topics. To complete the puzzle and see what the heck is going on in our reality. Thank you for watching my video. Rick Merico reporting.